From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We never charge for them. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website right now, spacedoutradio.co. The .com is coming back probably this weekend. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Shop at the SOR Vault. Pick up some swag. Sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. Read up on The Encounter or the SOR Newswire and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Mighty Moose Beard Oil Company. It's 100% Canadian, 100% natural, taking care of beards around the world. Visit MightyMooseBeard.com. Don't forget to use promo code SOR2019 today. We're heading into one of the most remote rainforests of British Columbia tonight, looking for the legendary Sasquatch. John Zada, who packs a pretty good beard himself, very tight, is an author, journalist, and photographer based out of Toronto, Ontario. An interest in adventure travel and remote regions of the world, his first book is called In the Valleys of the Noble Beyond, In the Search of the Sasquatch. So for a journalist who's worked for most of the major publications and networks around the world, why did John turn his attention to looking for Bigfoot? We'll find out next. His website, johnzada.com. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Mr. John Zada, I always love talking Sasquatch, and the fact that you were in my province writing this very, very special book, I appreciate it. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having you come and tell your story to our audience as well, because I think it's always important when someone of your professionalism, your background as a journalist, tells the stories of this legendary creature. Did you ever believe in Sasquatch before you started investigating it?
I did, in fact. I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s. I was a kid then, a time of much Sasquatch lore in the pop culture on television and movies. As a kid, I would go to the public library with my mom, and that's, I think, where I pretty much got hooked onto the subject. I discovered, John Green's books, who is the former mayor of Harrison Hot Springs, and he became probably the first, contemporary Western Sasquatch, researcher. He was a former journalist, and he wrote all these books that were, compendiums of Sasquatch sightings. So I got hooked onto his books. I kept reading other books, and I very much as a kid, growing up in a very uninteresting staid suburb of Toronto, in southern Ontario, Great Lakes area, dreamed a lot of the Pacific Northwest and the mountains and the forests, and which we didn't exactly have growing up in that area, and I carried that interest into adulthood, more or less.
As a journalist, we have been ridiculed, laughed at for covering any type of these subjects with any sort of seriousness, whether it's Sasquatch, whether it's paranormal and ghost, now UFOs, especially alien contact. I mean, you've been in newsrooms when those phone calls have come in, and you've seen your fellow colleagues roll their eyes at this and, oh, here goes that crap again. Did you take any heat from your former colleagues about writing a book on Bigfoot?
I would say that generally speaking, for the most part, my colleagues, who many of whom are also, I guess friends of mine, have been pretty good about it. I think we live in a time now where people are becoming a little more open to these things. So on one level, I mean, maybe they were just humoring me a little bit, but I never really felt, put down by any of them. I mean, once in a while you'd get a person here or a person there making comments saying, well, there's no such thing as those things, or, them expressing, ignorance about the subject or not having any kind of knowledge about the details. And so there is that. And so personally, no, I didn't really feel, negatively affected by them. I mean, I will say there was one incident. It was probably back in 2014, when I was working in a television newsroom. And then you might have seen the footage. There was these guys who were in the Squamish area, and they hiked up to a mountaintop. I think it was the Tricuni Peak video.
Wasn't it the Chief?
Nearby that. It was Tricuni Peak. And so they shot this footage, I think on one of the cell phones where they saw, a human-like or a humanoid-type figure walking fairly quickly down below in the valley, a snow-covered valley. It was moving really fast and erratically and going up, like mountainsides, like it's super fast. And so they speculated on the video that, maybe they were seeing a Sasquatch, and you could tell by their tone that they were pretty genuine and it wasn't really kind of a made-up thing. And so I was working I was doing one of those early morning, 4 a.m. shifts where you're preparing, the broadcast for 6 a.m. And I guess my colleagues knew that I'd started working on the subject. And so they, the video had gone viral and they wanted to include it in the newscast. So they gave it to me. And so the producer kind of comes over and he goes, when you work on this, just like make it a little bit funny kind of thing. Like it was almost like, they wanted to sort of make it humorous. Right. And so, because that's sort of the game that the news people are in. They don't really provide a lot of context, and the whole Sasquatch phenomenon is a subject that, in order to appreciate it or at least have an open mind towards it and to kind of see the possibility of it being a reality, you kind of have to know all the backstory, right? And so news is famously devoid of context. And so that's part of the reason I think hard journalism tends to sort of poo-poo it. But I think they're beginning to open up a little bit. If you go over to Vancouver Island, their CTV station there covers quite a lot of Sasquatch-related stuff in a fairly, I would say, serious manner. The correspondent there, a guy by the name of Gord Kurbis, I believe his name is. He who does his stories about John Bindernagel and about local sightings there. So I mean, I think it's changing a little bit, or I mean, it's not. I guess it's case by case depending on where you go. But yes, they do tend to kind of cover it in a flippant, joking, kind of mocking manner, I would say, for the most part.
A lot of people in the UFO field, there's a lot of tinfoil around there. They tend to believe that there are government agents working in every newsroom out there saying what can and cannot go to air. I've never seen it. You've worked for some of the biggest media conglomerates in the world, John. Have you ever seen it when it comes to UFOs or stories like Sasquatch where some alleged government official says, yeah, we're not going to run that?
No, I mean, I've never actually been in a situation where anything like that has ever happened. And I mean, I think to begin with, you're not getting a lot of coverage of those stories to begin with at all, right? And I think, even the more recent revelations coming out of the U.S. from the military about, I guess, the UFO footage taken from the fighter jets recently. Even though there have been a few large media organizations who've covered that, like I think the New York Times was among them, a lot of others just simply didn't. And so, no, I mean, that doesn't happen. What tends to happen more often is, of course, you've just got layers of producers and of managers and of various concerns and various worries and a lot of decision makers and too many cooks. And so just, I think what my experience has been that what tends to happen in newsrooms is just that decisions just get skewed by all the various layers of managerial and bureaucratic decision making. So, but no, I haven't experienced anything like that before.
Neither am I, because that is one conspiracy that I am trying to do my best to put an end to, even though I like a good conspiracy out there, but I just know that one's not true. And no, the reason why I brought that up is because you brought up the fact that you were told by the media or your news director to, lighten it up, fluff it up, as we call it, make it a little bit funny and humorous, because, that's what we call a back end story. Back in, in the news wheel or whatever, fluff, filler, whatever you want to call it. But in regards to taking this subject seriously when it comes to Sasquatch, how did you kind of look into it? Were you looking into it from a journalistic standpoint? Were you looking at it from a scientific view or an indigenous view?
A little bit of everything. So, I mean, I'm, just so the audience knows, I'm not like a Sasquatch field researcher or a Sasquatch investigator per se. I have a lifelong interest in it, which has sort of, ebbed and flowed over the years and everything. But no, I'm a travel writer. I'm a journalist. I'm an adventurer. I'm a photographer, and so I'm essentially a storyteller. And so, I decided to go to this particular region of British Columbia, a place called the Great Bear Rainforest, both to tell the story of the area, but also to wrap in the narrative of my, I guess it would be a sort of a once and for all search for the creature in an attempt to, come to some kind of a decision as to whether the creatures actually exist or not, that would satisfy me. And that was sort of the quest story that was built into the book. And I wanted to really, unpack it as much as possible. So, some science, definitely indigenous, because the area is home to, a handful of coastal First Nations people who have a long history and, long traditions regarding this subject. I looked at, the science of perception, cognition, psychological research about the way we see the world, how we see what we see, how we believe what we believe. And I really wanted to take the opportunity to tell a story of, a city slicker basically going into, the temperate coastal rainforest, and at the same time, give the reader a lot to chew on. And so I weave all of those disparate parts of the narrative together to, create this essentially an adventure story with a lot of different components to it. So I looked at everything pretty much.
And we see the topic getting a little bit more, when it comes to Sasquatch, getting a little bit more play. I'm a fan of a lot of YouTube videos. I chose, when we moved up north here, not to get cable. So I do a lot of YouTubing. And my buddy Mike, he was looking at this one YouTube channel called, because he's a hunter, it's called howtohunt.com. And this gentleman who hosts this show, and be darned if his name isn't just on the edge of my tongue here. Isdall is the last name. Anyways, Steve Isdall. And, for years he's been hunting. And then recently, the last year or two, he's all of a sudden started finding Sasquatch tracks along areas where he's hunting. And we're trying to get him on the show for next month. But, I look at that. I mean, here's a guy who has 70,000 followers on his YouTube channel, and all of a sudden he's like, we're finding these tracks. Like, we're out hunting for deer, moose, bear, whatever, and all of a sudden we're coming across these Sasquatch tracks all over the place. And now he's starting to cast them. I think people are starting to open up to the fact that there is something strange going on in the forest. What it is, we do not know. However, it's something that many are starting to feel needs to be investigated outside of questionable characters like Todd Standing.
Right. And I mean, I think also just the nature of the medium, the internet itself and social media, it's very conducive to these sorts of things spreading. People spend a lot of time on their phones and on their laptops. And I mean, I think just think just the rise of the internet alone has spread this subject quickly and far and wide. I mean, you probably wouldn't have the level of interest that you do, now had there not been such a thing as the internet. And a lot of the older researchers, I think, and the older hands, the older, Bigfooters, I mean, they talk a lot about, people who've been into this for at least a few decades, if not more. I mean, they talk a lot about how, the newer people, let's refer to them as, who've, come onto this, because of the internet and, going onto websites and, reading online, that, they don't actually know any of the old material or the old research. They don't read books. They don't know John Green. They don't know, they're just sort of people who've latched onto the subject, by way of, finding Bigfoot, like the TV series on Animal Planet or maybe local researchers, websites and all of the kind of, I guess, garbage material that tends to sort of find itself, on the internet and everything. So, I mean, I think it may be a little bit of open-mindedness. I think as we move forward in time, we do become, I think, generally, I guess, more open as a race, more or less. But I think it's also just a lot of, I know, kind of just viral kind of stuff out there, in the virtual realm that has just sort of hooked people too.
Do you think Bigfoot's popularity, or Sasquatch up here in north of the border, has taken a big enhancement due to the fact that there is a hell of a lot of new popularity because of what's happening in the UFO field? And when somebody gets intrigued by something strange and weird, they start saying, oh, yeah, I remember these Sasquatch books, and that kind of intrigues me, and they start looking into it now. But do you think that's the reason why Bigfoot is becoming a little bit more popular?
There may be a little bit of that. I mean, I think that from my perception, from my perspective, there has been more linking of the UFOs to the Bigfoot phenomenon in recent past than if you go back a lot further. I mean, I think it's always been there to some extent, but I think now that a lot of the sort of paranormal stuff is starting to become more and more entwined, and theories are becoming more convoluted, and just a lot more different, crossing of different subjects and fields. But I don't know. I think I would say if I had to choose a reason why the subject is becoming, more popular, I think people are becoming more popular more interested in the outdoors. I mean, I think there's been a spike in, wilderness culture and mountain culture and, Instagramming of your nature shots. And I think when people find themselves going into that area and discovering this, new interest, the Sasquatch stuff isn't really too far behind, they end up kind of discovering that, or that's kind of part of the whole kind of, hipster outdoors camping kind of thing. So I think it's, for me, it's more cultural in that sense. And I think too, that as we move forward in time, and as, nature becomes more denuded and, the wild becomes, also more, I guess elusive in a way, because we're cutting down forests, and there's much more like environmental degradation going on. We yearn for that wild more and more, the more it kind of begins to recede. And so I wonder too if our search for the Sasquatch or interest in the Sasquatch isn't deeply tied in with this growing sense that the wild is vanishing.
Could very well be. Could very well be, but I think people are yearning for it. I mean, I know where I live, we have seen a huge influx in my community. Even I've only been up here 4 years, but we have seen a large influx in my community of people near Vancouver moving on out because they can't handle the traffic, they can't handle the attitudes, they can't handle you can't open a door for a person anymore without offending someone, and they want to get back to that old school living where people care about each other, and that's usually in smaller communities that are surrounded by wilderness. And it's all part of the benefit. Sure, I think there's a lot of the hipsters out there who try and drive a trailer behind their BMW SUV, and they think, "Ooh, there's a tree around. I'm camping. Look at me," But nonetheless, I think it is becoming a little bit more popular and a little bit more rugged as people get sick of the concrete and want to get back into trees. It's almost like it's a humanly natural thing to do, don't you think? We've got about 2 minutes here. Yeah.
No, and for sure. And I mean, I think too, just to add to what I was saying and what you just said now, that, I mean, people are also yearning for, deeper meaning and for adventure and exploration and some kind of more purposeful pursuit and excitement. I mean, I think too, like the whole city experience, and the 9-to-5 jobs and the routine and the 2-week vacations a year, they prevent you from living that life. And I think that the possibility of the species of man apes and the ability to perhaps look into it opens up a whole new realm of meaning for people, and I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I agree, too. We got about 1 minute to go here before we go to break. John Zada is our guest tonight, talking Sasquatch. John, when we come back from the break,
right,
I want to know what the Great Bear Rainforest is like, man, because that is probably the one spot in the province of British Columbia where I have lived my entire life that I've never gone, that I've always wanted to go to. And with about 30 seconds, is it as beautiful as what we see in videos and hear from people?
Yeah, and more. It's really beyond words, and I mean, I'll do my best to explain it when we come back, but I mean, the only way to really, truly appreciate it is to go there. But it is really one of the most mind-blowing places I've ever been to, perhaps in my entire life. So, yes. Short answer.
Well, I can't wait. I got to get there. I just have to get there. And it's tough to get in there because I believe they only allow a certain amount of people in there per year. It is very protected. It is home to one of the rarest animals in the world as well. John Zada is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, talking Sasquatch, his new book, In the Valleys of the Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch. More on Spaced Out Radio coming up.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother Is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
Finish off your weekend and kick off your new week with me, Everett Thiemer, right here on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to bring you great guests, a little bit of snark, and plenty of information to think about. But don't worry, there's going to be plenty of woo as well. We are going to hit everything in the paranormal and supernatural, including the odd psychic Sundays. So tune us in on Sunday, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and Bigfoot in the forest. Truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Richard Dolan, as well as others all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page. Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters in the frozen Canadian tundra. Thank you so much for joining us. Reminder to all of you, if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, but use .co, not .com for right now, because we're just getting ready to switch it over to the brand new site. You can sign up for the SOR Newswire. Make sure you read it. It's updated daily. Sign up for the Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers Club, the SOR Vault. You can do a little shopping. Go to We Read the Night. We got some great authors in there, including Varla Ventura, who has her books for sale in there. All you do is click the Amazon link, and you are good to go. So make sure you check out our new site, spacedoutradio.co. for right now. John Zada is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. His first book that he's ever written after years of journalism and literally scouring the world for stories. He writes about Bigfoot. Yeah. In the Valleys of Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch is the book, and I highly suggest you go to any major bookstore, Amazon, anywhere online. You can find it. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
One of British Columbia's most protected areas is the Great Bear Rainforest, which is home to the Coyote bear, or the spirit bear, which is a white black bear, which is very rare. They're not albino. Their fur is just white. And this is a very highly protected area. There's not a lot of people who are actually allowed in this area per year. There's a limited amount. Tell us about the Great Bear Rainforest.
Okay. Well, the Great Bear Rainforest is essentially the largest intact temperate rainforest in the world. It is perhaps the size of Ireland. It extends from roughly, the north part of Vancouver Island, the parallel of the north part of the island. So basically the British Columbia coast at that parallel all the way up to the Alaska Panhandle, hundreds of kilometers. It is an area of mind-boggling biodiversity. You've got boggy, low-lying islands on the outside coast, to rocky, glaciated coast mountains. To the east, high alpine to valley bottom old-growth forests, massive trees, wetlands, western red cedar, Sitka spruce, bears, as you described, whales, every kind of terrestrial and marine life. I mean, there's probably no place like it in North America. The only places that perhaps compare are maybe, the Olympic Peninsula or, the Tongass National Forest in southeastern Alaska, and even then they don't quite compare. So this is an area where, nature is largely intact and hasn't been disturbed to the extent that it has, in the rest of, the Pacific Northwest. And so, naturally, one's thought is, if one is, given to the whole Sasquatch phenomenon, this would be one of the prime places. And it does have a long history. There are indigenous communities up there that have stories of Sasquatch going back for, decades and centuries. And so, essentially, I went there, and you've been referencing the whole, how does a journalist kind of write about this subject? So I actually went out there to work on a magazine story, a travel adventure piece about the Great Bear Rainforest. It had been a few years since it had been partially protected, and so I traveled there. And of course, as I'd mentioned earlier in the show, I mean, I have an interest in the Sasquatch, but that wasn't really the driving, factor for my going there. It was in the back of my mind, and I thought, okay, while I'm there, maybe I could ask a few people about it, and I might hear a story or two. But when I got there, I arrived during a year in which there was a rash of reports across the whole region, and very quickly my travel adventure story for the magazine veered like quite heavily, and then I started looking into all of these reports and like really, really, really interesting stories involving multiple witnesses, and one really interesting story at a kids camp near one of the towns there. And so by the end of the 2-week trip, I'd gathered so much, not just Sasquatch stories and lore, but there were characters there and all kinds of history and nature material. Like, I had so much stuff that I'm like, man, I not only can I write one long feature piece, I could write 50. And so I thought, well, why not just go back and write a book? I fell in love with the place and decided the next year on my own dime to just go back and do a really long trip through the area and make the basis of the story my search for the Sasquatch, but also make it about the Great Bear Rainforest, which is really the protagonist in the book.
Right. I was going to ask you why the Great Bear Rainforest when there are so many other locations, not only in British Columbia, but on the entire Pacific Northwest. Why choose that area? Because people, if you think of Sasquatch, people either think of Harrison Hot Springs area, British Columbia, or they think Vancouver Island, and otherwise it's mainly Washington, Oregon, and Northern California.
Right. Well, for that for that very reason, that there isn't really a lot known about it, and I thought, well, if I'm going to write something, I don't want to go to all these places where there's been all this other research and material. Having said that, anyone who's familiar with John Green's work will know that the Newhawk First Nation town of Bella Coola is one of the big Sasquatch nodes in the province, if not in the Pacific Northwest. It has a long history. Even a guy by the name of Bob Titmus, who's another, he's deceased now, but he was another pioneering, swashbuckling, adventuring, super intelligent researcher who spent a lot of time on the BC coast, especially Bella Coola, and another town called Klemtu. And so there is a lot of research and material that has already been done, which gives one the basis for going in and doing further research. But at the same time, it's also not that well known, and the Great Bear just hasn't been written about very much. And you've got all the indigenous traditions which carry a lot of weight, and it was just a really, really kind of novel place, and I was just drawn to it, and by happenstance, because I went over there to work on a magazine article.
Well, it's funny because the Bella Coola area, I've never been there. My better half, Mrs. SOR, was just there a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny because that is an area where when you drive in, you have to drive down this high, steep embankment that is all gravel, that literally, I won't drive the road. I don't even want to see it. It just scares me just thinking about it. But it's like 20 miles straight down, and it takes you about 2 hours to go down this because the gravel is all loose gravel, and there's no guards on the cliff side. And it is scary because it's barely enough to get through. As we paint the picture for our audience, there's barely enough room to get through with 2 vehicles. And to think that in North America we have a road like that is quite unbelievable. But nonetheless, the people of Bella Coola, they always say, don't even go 10 feet into the forest because either a grizzly bear or a Sasquatch is coming after you.
Mm-hmm. And your reference to that road, which is by the way known colloquially in the area as the Hill, that was built in the mid-20th century by the people in the Bella Coola Valley as a way to access the rest of the world, because that's how remote the place was. You could only get in there at the time by boat and by plane, and back in the mid-20th century, plane travel was not, as widespread as it is now. And so, that just gives you an idea of, how remote the region is. And Bella Coola is one of the more accessible parts of it. And when you go to some of the other towns, it's a lot harder to get in there. But yes, there is no way to describe. I tried my best in the book, and I think I may have succeeded to some degree to give an impression of how dense and how intact and how vast and almost impenetrable in some ways this region is. If you just go online and you Google Great Bear Rainforest, you'll start to see, pictures of it, and you'll get a sense of just it's just like a kind of when you go into the forest and you go into like a really, really pristine forest, and you look at the forest floor and it's covered in this kind of beautiful thick moss. Well, the Great Bear Rainforest is kind of like this mountainous region alongside the ocean where the forest that covers those mountains looks like that moss that is in really, really pristine forest floors kind of thing. It's almost like it's perfect. So, you probably can't get much more pristine than that place. And if there is a kind of, pure spirit of nature, if nature is alive in a way that perhaps is not demonstrated in other places, that would really be the place.
Author John Zada is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking about his book, In the Valleys of Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch at the Great Bear Rainforest in British Columbia. Now, when you started looking to see if there was Sasquatch encounters there, what were the local stories that you were hearing that led you to write this?
So, on my first trip, it was essentially, for the magazine story, the big story was the appearance of a creature at a youth camp near the town of Bella Bella, and it's an indigenous cultural youth camp, and a creature appeared one night near the I guess it was the staff cabins. And there was an incident where they let off some bear bangers to scare it away. The creature took off. So that was kind of the really big drama that had recently happened there. But I talked to a logger who was doing heli logging, and he was on his own standing on a stump, and then he looked up on a bluff behind him and saw a creature. I talked to people fishermen who spend a lot of time in boats. It's a maritime area out there. Travel is primarily by boat. People have seen them swimming. They dig clams there on the clam beaches. And they often go in the middle of the night when the tides are low. They'll often get hollered at or have rocks thrown at them when they're digging clams at night because the animals are purportedly protecting their food sources. And so banging on cabins, it's every kind of report you could, I guess, imagine you hear about there. And so those are the initial stories. And then when I went back, I uncovered more. Just much of the same. And then one story led to another, which led to another. And it was this kind of really complex matrix of, I guess, references and referrals and coincidences and serendipity. And it was just one of the really, really amazing things about travel in this area where, you've got small communities and they're all interconnected and everyone generally knows each other, is just that you'll, and I don't know whether there is some kind of logical explanation for this that's mathematical or scientific, but you'll talk to somebody and they will tell you about somebody else who's had a report, for instance, and then, by some strange coincidence, you'll bump into the person the next day, and without having to even look for them, or someone will talk about, a sighting that happened at an old village site somewhere in the territory, which is quite vast. And then you'll bum a ride on a boat 2 or 3 days later, and you'll go to that same village site that the person had just spoken about. So it was really kind of it was very fruitful. I mean, before going up there, I thought, okay, maybe people are not going to want to talk about it, and maybe because I'm non-Indigenous and I'm from the city, there'd be suspicion, and there was a little bit, but I was surprised by how much people really, really, really wanted to talk about it, and so as a result, I got a lot of material.
I'm very surprised that you got that much out of there, because knowing the way First Nations people are in British Columbia and around Canada, telling their stories, especially about folklorish creatures like the Sasquatch, is not a real big point of conversation with the white people, because we've made enough fun of them over the years. At least that's what I have noticed. And however, if you gain the trust of the Indigenous, when they open up, the stories are beautiful, are they not? Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, just on the first point, I mean, I think going back to what we were talking about earlier, I think that this whole, spike or proliferation or rise in documentaries, like the whole Finding Bigfoot phenomenon, I think that's sort of taken the taboo away a little bit from these cultures and these communities. I think the signals that they've been getting from the pop culture is that it's not as taboo a subject to talk about anymore. And those guys, when Matt Moneymaker and Cliff and Bobo, they visited like Indigenous communities, and they had like meetings and town halls, and so I think the signaling that had resulted from those shows helped to, I guess, put them more at ease with talking about it. I mean, the older generation were a bit harder to kind of get them to share the stories, but the younger people who watch more of those shows and are more kind of pop culture savvy were, I think, affected. But yes, their stories are interesting, and not just because they will tell you about their encounter like anyone else would who's had an encounter, but they also talk. The creatures have another function in those communities. They are characters in traditional tales. So they're a flesh and blood animal. They're story characters. They're considered supernatural beings by some people in the community, not all of them. And they're generally, no matter how anyone in those communities regards them, most people agree in these towns that the Sasquatches are kind of these, I guess, guardians of the forest, sort of stewards of nature. They're the caretakers of the forest. And so one of the great things about going to these, communities and connecting with the people and learning about their culture and striking up friendships and you get to have multiple perspectives on the Sasquatch phenomenon. Whereas if you go to, let's say, more of just a white community, let's say, and yes, there may be stories in those, they'll generally kind of just stick to the perspective of, it's an ape, or maybe there may be a slightly more esoteric tie-in with people's beliefs. But over there, they've got a lot of layers to how they see them. And then even within those layers, there are sub-layers. Like, some will see them as dangerous and malevolent, and others will see them as benevolent. And as, if you see a Sasquatch, it's a good thing. It's trying to tell you something. It's a signal. It's a good omen. And then in other communities, it's the total opposite. And so, it's quite rich in terms of the various perspectives they have there. John Zada is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking Sasquatch. Real, fake, indifferent? Where are we going with it? I don't know, but we're letting John carry the way here because he's got an incredible book out called In the Valleys of Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch. It can be found at any major bookstore. We got about 3 minutes here before we got to go to break. John, in regards to the stories and the legends that you were hearing from the First Nations there and how they opened up to you regarding this, was there anything that kind of caught you off guard by the way they were describing the creature? Because moments ago you were saying how they were describing, some were saying it's malevolent, others were benevolent, others were saying it was almost godly and there's a sign coming for you. That's a lot of different avenues to take for this creature.
Well, I wasn't really so, startled or made curious, by that. I think there were more physical descriptions that caught me off guard. And so, I mean, for instance, what I did not expect to hear up there, and which is, I think, perhaps, you're in, as a host of a radio show about this kind of stuff, you might have heard this before, but there was a lot of reference to like smaller sized creatures. And when I would ask them, oh, you mean juvenile Sasquatches? And they go, no. Like, we mean like a separate species of Sasquatch type creature, but which is smaller, right? And so they would refer to that. So that came up quite a lot. People refer to them universally as the little people or whatever. So, but there they've got different names for them. But, and then, in other places they would describe the Sasquatch as kind of being, like not having a lot of fur on it, like being mostly this kind of almost pale-skinned, clammy humanoid with like very thin patches of fur on it. And so I think a lot of the unexpected stuff that I heard wasn't really so much in terms of their more spiritual beliefs regarding the creature, but more in terms of just the descriptions of how many different types of Sasquatch type beings that exist up there. And not that there is an endless number. No, it's just a small handful. But so that's, I mean, I think that's where I was kind of scratching my head a little bit, trying to kind of understand all of the different beings and what their names were, and that changed from territory to territory you went up to. And so anyway, that made it a little more interesting.
It's amazing how many reports, when you start digging into Sasquatch with First Nations, how many reports of little people are around. I had a First Nations buddy of mine up here a couple months ago, and I always ask him point blank, because he knows I'm going to ask, has anything weird happened lately? See any Sasquatch or anything? And he, no. He goes, but my mom had all her jewelry stolen by little people, so I spent the last 2 nights making trinkets to try and get it back. And lo and behold, he's like, believe it or not, last night they came back and they returned all my mother's jewelry and they took all the trinkets. And I was like, that is awesome. Like, they could hear them running around the house. It's absolutely phenomenal. I gotta get a little bit more information on those. That's such an intriguing cryptid topic for me. John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break right here on Spaced Out Radio. Hour number 1 down in the books. We're going to go to hour number 2. We're going back to the Great Bear Rainforest, the Sasquatch stories, the legends. John Zada, In the Valleys of Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch. That's the book we're talking about. You want to pick it up at any major bookstore, online as well. More Spaced Out Radio with hour 2 after this. The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thiemer. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other. Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more, keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to say hello to everyone listening in Ridgecrest, California, KZFX 93.7 FM. Down in New Orleans, UPRN 107.7 FM. We are on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, and Dangerfield, Texas, KDNF AM 1560. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Great to have you with us. Don't forget, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Dextrogiratory. Dextrogiratory is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam set the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Do a little shopping at the SOR Vault. You'd look good in our swag. You could sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's $5 a month. Head over to We Read the Night. You can find books from a lot of great people like the Crypto Guru or Varla Ventura. And, of course, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. It's updated daily. We introduced John Zada tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He is a Canadian journalist, researcher, author of the brand new book, In the Valleys of Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch. We are talking about the Great Bear Rainforest and the Sasquatch sightings that have happened there. John, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
We're going to start off with a pretty easy question here. What do you think Sasquatch is?
An easy question, you say. Well, I'm going to see how I can formulate this. I mean, I think if I was to choose any of the, I guess, numerous perspectives on the subject, and there are many, I would probably go more with the flesh and blood interpretation, with a little, little addition. I would say probably, more human than ape, flesh and blood, but with some evolved capacities that resulted from, I guess, its time in the forest. Perceptual capacities. So So yeah, I mean, I it's not that I'm not really open to the more, I guess, paranormal takes or anything. I mean, I'm open to a lot of stuff. I just think that intuitively, kind of that's what I would lean towards. And I don't know, somehow it just seems that's to me the more interesting interpretation, believe it or not. I mean, I think everybody who has their take on the subject, has that perspective because of some personal predisposition towards that perspective. But I think for me, what is intriguing is the flesh and blood, the animal kind of perspective is intriguing for me somehow. I just with the addition that they're not just any animal. They're a lot. If they do exist, then they are a lot like us, right? They would be more human-like than ape-like. They would be self-aware. They would be highly intelligent, and they would, they would be like a human would be if you stuck a human in the forest and forced the human to, rely on their own faculties to survive, right? So that to me sounds like that makes the most sense to me as far as the perspectives go, and I think that's what I lean towards the most if I had to choose.
See, I lean more towards the indigenous ideals of it, that there's something supernatural about this creature. When I had one of my experiences, shortly after I had my experience with two of the creatures, the First Nations believe that Sasquatch can pixelate itself or shapeshift or disappear, like it's interdimensional. And we were doing a perimeter walk around my friend's house where we had seen these two creatures in the forest. And I felt like we were being followed. And I turned and looked, and they had this old dark cherry tree standing there. And beside it, there was pixelation from the ground to about 8-10 feet up. And two of the four of us saw this pixelation. As we continued our walk around the house, because they had a lot of paranormal activity there, about 20 seconds later, as we got to the front of the house, that's where we got roared at, right by where that tree was. And that's why, after talking to numerous First Nations people, that I do believe that there is something special about this creature. I don't know what. I think it's too early to tell. But I don't know if some of them are, some of them aren't. We just don't know enough about it to fully put our stamp on it and say this is a mammal or this is an ape-like creature, like many people, or gentleman that I heard speaking at a Paracon a couple weeks ago, calling it the big North American monkey. And I find that difficult. Right, and I mean, I think what really makes the whole thing mysterious, obviously, is that we don't have one in terms of a physical specimen, obviously, but beyond that, its elusiveness is its true hallmark in the same way that a cheetah's hallmark is its speed, or what makes a spider truly unique in the animal kingdom, or almost unique, is its ability to spin webs. I mean, what really differentiates this being is its ability to almost effortlessly sidestep us, right? So, and even beyond that, I mean, you could even define it in other terms. You could say that, the Sasquatch, whatever its reality is, it is a being, is a symbol, is a life force, is a spirit, is an animal, whatever, which is masterful at resisting, being decontextualized from its environment, right? So our attempts to define it, our attempts to outline it, our attempts to capture it on film or on video, our attempts to bring in a body, so to speak, that is trying to remove it from its context. But it refuses to. It's almost like you can't, in a way, because its context is nature writ large. Is
I mean, it's almost like it's a spirit of nature in a way, and that's really kind of what intrigues me about the whole thing. I think really what I mean, maybe every Bigfoot or Sasquatch researcher or armchair enthusiast has their own reason for being drawn into the subject, and I don't know, for me it's sort of these sorts of implications, like in addition to the psychology aspect, like why are people seeing them if they're not supposed to exist, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, I mean, and I think that's where the whole spiritual perspectives come from, and the theories that purported to dematerialize, and because I mean, if it were just another animal or being, I mean, surely we would have had one by now, and if it actually is a flesh and blood creature, then it would have to be, as I guess some would refer to it, as a kind of a ninja type creature. I mean, at the very, very, very least, it would have to be highly, highly, highly evolved in its, perceptual abilities, and not just in terms of its senses, but also, I guess, in terms of, an intuition. So even if it is a flesh and blood, it does cross over into those, kind of more mystical realms, if you want to refer to it by that name. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have that answer like everyone, I guess.
Do you think that's maybe the reason why we're not figuring it out what this creature really is, because we are being very narrow-minded with the research? Well, I mean, I think let's just start with society, okay? I mean, I think maybe part of the reason. Okay, so let's assume that there is some physical reality to the creature that potentially could lend it towards being verified in some way. I mean, I think part of the problem is that, the gatekeepers of knowledge, scientists and professors and academia and officialdom at large, like, they reside in cities and in capitals and universities, and like, people who kind of decide what is real and what is not, and what will happen and what will not happen. People who make laws, they're urban dwellers, and they don't really know about this stuff. So I think we have that to contend with. But yes, I mean, I think what you're asking me is, if there is some non-material reality to the Sasquatch, I mean, not everyone's. I mean, we live in a materialist world. We live in a scientific world. Logic and materialism are kind of the pillars of our culture and society. And so when you kind of get into this stuff, which lends itself more to, I would say, even Eastern cultures, they tend to be a little more metaphysical in their thinking, because that's how that's what their cultures are predicated on. We don't really have that here. And those who tend to kind of lean towards it are, considered either, just like free thinkers or bohemian or unstable or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think either way, the society is not really kind of budging on it, because it just doesn't really fall onto their radar. And it doesn't really surprise me that that society isn't even really that open towards just a really more mundane flesh and blood interpretation of the phenomenon, because we lack so much creativity to attend to so many other less complicated issues and questions. You know what I mean? So, let alone something like this. So yes, I mean, I think closed-mindedness is a huge part of the whole thing. I think so too. I would be remiss if we just took a quick side tour here. Did you get to see any of the spirit bears while you were up there?
Oh, okay. No, I didn't actually lay eyes on one. I did go on a couple of occasions to the village of Klemtu, which is just north of Bella Bella. It's on an island called Swindle Island. It's sort of where the North Coast begins. And that's where they have a lot of sightings of those bears. And in fact, I mean, you could find them along pretty much most of the North Coast. But we went to some places where they tend to appear quite frequently, and we didn't actually get a chance. And when you're up there, and you're doing those tours at those bear lodges, and you don't really have a lot of time, right? You're there for a few days, and it's really luck of the draw and the weather and where that particular animal is and what they're up to. And so in my case, no, I did not lay eyes on one, unfortunately. But I saw a lot of photographs in the lodge of people who did take photos of them.
Now, if I'm correct, there are less than 500 of these white black bears in existence on the planet?
Yeah, I don't know the exact number. I think it's something to that effect. They are technically black bears with a recessive gene that causes their fur to become white. And what is really, truly amazing to see next to the bear itself is to see, a black-colored THAL, black bear, with a spirit bear cub, right? Because what will happen is the black bear will give birth to it, and it's almost always, it's so rare that it's almost always that the sow is black in color, and then when the spirit bear is born, it will be white. And so it's quite a magical thing. And there is, I think part of what draws people to the bears is not the anomaly of their fur color. It's not even just that. There is a kind of, I'm trying to find the right word for it, but like a temperament to the animals. Like they don't look as scary or as mean or as dangerous, and not that all bears are. I don't want to kind of like, paint them in that light, but just there is a kind of almost a benevolence to them, a kind of peacefulness to them that comes out in their facial features and in their appearance and in their gait and in their just general demeanor that I think kind of makes them sort of animals that people want to see, more than the other bears.
Well, this is what is read at bcspiritbear.com. I'll read this for our audience who may not know, because the majority of our audience is in the United States and around the world, not just in Canada. And this is what they say. This is the legend of it. They say it all comes down to the raven, which they believe is part of the creator. It says Raven was not satisfied. Raven wanted something to remind him of the long white time of before. So he chose Bear, the keeper of dreams and memory, to help him out. Raven sought Black Bear out. He didn't have to go far, as he is always seen as a constellation of the stars in the night sky. Raven made a pact with Black Bear. Black Bear agreed after he was given huge assurances from Raven that he could live in peace and safety for all time by letting one out of every 10 black bears turn white. This was a reminder for Raven of the misery of the great ice age of before. The white bears to this day are still called Moxkamul, I probably got that wrong, by the Kiatsu and the Tsimshian people. So there's a little bit of a brief history of the Kermode bear according to the First Nations legend. I mean, they're a beautiful creature. I would love to see one.
Yes, and that particular, I guess, story is common to all of the communities that have that particular bear in their territory.
Right. Well, I appreciate you stopping by on that one. Let's get back to Bigfoot here for a few minutes here. In regards to this creature, and right before I kind of went off on a tangent about the Kermode bear there for a minute, we were talking about what you believe it is.
It was an important one, though. We kind of had to go there. They are a rare elusive creature like the one we're talking about tonight. So they share that in common.
Were you able, during your trips to the Great Bear Rainforest, able to see any sort of signs of Bigfoot or evidence?
Yeah, so there is an incident which I recount in the book, which I'll get into just a tiny bit. I don't want to spoil it completely, but where I go exploring, because these communities essentially are they are in the middle of the wilderness, and the minute you know their backyards are essentially the backcountry, basically. And so you know, I spend a lot of time talking to people. Of course, the stories involve, you know, dialogues and human relationships and whatnot. But then I end up, you know, going for walks and for hikes and this kind of thing. And so I ended up going to. I was constantly told by people in you know the Heiltsuk First Nation town of Bella Bella that their old town site, which is about 3 or 4 kilometers south of where Bella Bella is now, is a place of a lot of like Sasquatch sightings. That like and you know people sometimes go there, but they don't go there very often because they feel it's a little bit haunted because of you know the long history of the settlement there and everything. But so I ended up going for a walk there, and then when I got there, I found 2 or 3 sort of late teen, early 20s people from a neighboring community who were at this lake, and they told me that they were like looking for Sasquatch tracks, and I'm like, oh, like it was a total coincidence. I'm like, oh wow, like why? What's going on? And so they were like, well, you know, somebody from the community here in Bella Bella posted a photo of tracks on Facebook, and we're looking for them. I'm like, no way, man. Okay, and this was sort of my first potential big break in the, you know, in my you know investigation, so to speak, kind of thing. So I just sort of got all excited and said, you know, did you guys like walk around the shore of the lake and look, you know, explore the kind of banks and look at the mud? And they're like, no, they were kind of just sort of staying put in one area and everything. And so I ended up going around and looking for like tracks. And then I came across what looked like, you know, small children, humans' feet kind of thing in the mud on the edge of the lake. And anyway, to make a long story short, I didn't find anything, but then later discovered that the person who posted the photo on Facebook posted the photo of the small tracks, and she had alleged that they were like juveniles. And so I went back and looked and took photographs, and the story kind of goes from there in the Bella Bella chapter surrounding that whole incident and whether or not those were actually like, you know, humans' feet or small juvenile Sasquatch tracks. And they did kind of look a bit funny. Like there were 2 sets, and one of them was sort of wider than usual. The other one kind of, the toe was a little bit sort of to the side. And anyway, so that made for kind of a neat little sort of, you know, tangent in the plot, so to speak.
We've got about a minute left, or maybe about 10 seconds. I apologize. I read the clock wrong here. On Spaced Out Radio, our guest, John Zada, In the Valleys of Noel Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch, is his book. Can be found at any major bookstore. We're going to continue with the Sasquatch talk. What kind of evidence? Did he find the footprints? Did he hear the creature? We'll find out with John Zada on Spaced Out Radio after this. Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, BUMBLEFOOT.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Finish off your weekend and kick off your new week with me, Everett Themer, right here on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to bring you great guests, a little bit of snark, and plenty of information to think about. But don't worry, there's going to be plenty of woo as well. We are going to hit everything in the paranormal and supernatural, including the odd psychic Sundays. So tune us in on Sunday, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything is an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other. Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more, keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Welcome back to the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have you with us. Reminder to all of you, if you've missed portions of this show or others, just head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.co for right now. We're going to switch to the .com this weekend, I believe. I'll talk to Uncle Jimbo about that. But nonetheless, we have some really cool things there for you. For $5 a month, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club. You can also do a little shopping for some SOR swag at the SOR Vault. And We Read the Night. If you're looking for a great book, head on over to We Read the Night. We got some great authors on there. We're going to be adding some more as well very, very soon. So check that out. Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire updated daily as well. If you're looking for a great Sasquatch book, I'm going to recommend tonight our guest, John Zada. His latest book, In the Valleys of Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch, takes place in British Columbia at the Great Bear Rainforest, a very, very desolate and old-growth forest. Yeah, believe it or not, it's amazing, John, how many people do not realize in North America that literally from California straight up to British Columbia and to the edges of Alaska, it is natural rainforest.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, even more than that, if you go back, long enough in time, that entire stretch of coast was just as intact as the Great Bear is today. So, I mean, yes, I mean, it must have been a true wonder of its time to be able to be there several hundred years ago when this exact ecosystem with various subregions as you moved hundreds of miles either north or south, but just nonetheless this like singular massive coniferous old growth forest occupying, if not the whole, the whole continent was covered if you go back long enough. But it's the size of the trees here that I think distinguish it in terms of a forest from other places.
Very thick, dense forest as well that is ever growing in the ecology there. And with that type of ecology and the fact that there is not a lot of human interaction in that area, do you believe that that's the reason why Sasquatch may be thriving?
I mean, yes. I mean, if we take for granted that there are Sasquatch reports in Eastern North America and places like, people talk about like New Jersey and Rhode Island and, Massachusetts and like even like you hear Nova Scotia talked about once in a while, this Canadian province on the East Coast, and, these small geographical areas of woods. I mean, then yes, if something like that is deemed to be possible, and it's questionable in those cases, I would say, but then yes, something, a place like this would, I mean, if the animals, didn't really want to be seen, in the Great Bear, they can never be seen if that's what they choose. I mean, that's how sparsely populated it is, for sure. And I mean, I think, in some ways, I mean, in retrospect, when I think back now, I mean, the idea of the Great Bear being this, pristine, unviolated, remote place, attracted me to it as a Sasquatch node. But ironically, perhaps for the very same reason, it might be one of the harder places to find them. You know what I mean? Because it's just so hard to penetrate and so sparsely populated than perhaps in an area where the creatures are said to live, and they're on the edges of communities, and there's a lot more car traffic and people around, and like reports tend to happen in places where there's people and they're doing stuff, right? So
true.
But yeah, I mean, I think for sure, I think any animal would prefer to be in a healthy, functioning, flourishing ecosystem, and that is the Great Bear is. You can't really beat that. You can't beat the Great Bear on those terms.
With the amount of people that are there, and I believe there's less than 1,000 in that area, do you believe that the reason why that they are maybe not attacked, not having situations like missing 411 that David Paulides writes about happening there is because they kind of live by a natural set of rules or codes that are unwritten there?
Yeah, I mean, just to preface the answer, so like the communities vary from, they could be as small as 25 people. They're a handful. They're less than a dozen or so. But I mean, they're 1,500 people in one, 1,000 in another, 40 in another. So yes, I mean, maybe the largest town that would be considered part of the Great Bear Forest would maybe be Prince Rupert, which is maybe 10,000, 15,000.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's
you might know
north.
better. That's your neck of the woods. But what I was told when I was in Bella Bella was that by one of the main characters, in the book, and this sort of elderly woman who has had a bed and breakfast that I was staying at. She helped to kind of guide me in the community and connect me with people. This is an actual quote from the book. She says, we, and this is to quote you at the same time with the question that you just asked me. She said, we kind of have an unwritten rule here. She's like, we don't bother them and they don't bother us. We leave them alone. They leave us alone, and that's pretty much the way it works. And so then that's what, in terms of the relations between, I guess, the human community and the Sasquatch community, and because they also, don't forget, the indigenous communities tend to, generally speaking, see, Sasquatches as another community, like a neighboring race or a neighboring group. Like we tend to see them. Okay, they're these anomalous creatures, and they're a mystery, and cryptozoology. But if you talk to like Native people, they'll tell you that they're actually kind of like a culture, like a group, and they even had trading relations with them. They had adversarial relations with them in the past. So yeah, they've got a very different attitude. They don't really mess around with it. I mean, I think some individual members, there are exceptions, that they get excited about it, but they generally don't make a huge deal of it. If something happens to them, they see one, okay, they'll get excited, but they don't kind of go in pursuit of it in the same way that we do. Like for us, it's more of a kind of like, oh my God, the Sasquatch, let's go find it. And it's this kind of like thrill. It's this kind of like, what the hell is going on? These creatures shouldn't be here. But for them, they're a bit more kind of relaxed about it. There's a healthy sense of fear and foreboding, even if they don't fear the creatures per se, right? They still are kind of like, okay, we're not going to, like, there are areas in all of their territories that they say the animals, the creatures, whatever you want to call them, live. And so they'll often like not go there. Or if a logging company, let's say, wants to come in and cut trees in a certain place, because they do still allow a little bit, even under the protections there, they won't let them go into the places where the animals are set to live and stuff. So there is a kind of respect for them that, in a way that us outsiders don't really show the animal, just by the virtue of our nonstop pursuit of them. So that's the difference.
Joe in the chat room is asking, in regards to the Coyote bears, are there white-furred Sasquatch in that area that maybe have the same recessive gene?
Yeah, so my answer is there are definitely stories of albino Sasquatches. And I don't know if it would be a recessive gene thing. I mean, is that the definition of albinism? I don't know. But yes, I heard more than a few white-haired Sasquatch stories. And oddly enough, the two or three that I heard often involved like a fairly, they were aggressive, and these were in different territories. So they weren't even, they were not like, they were not the same stories in the same town. Like I heard one in one town, one in another town, and involving different time frames too. So yeah, they were really interesting, and some described them as old, and that's why they were kind of white. But what they had in common was that they were quite aggressive, and I don't know whether that was a coincidence or whether one person's story affected another person's story, because stories do travel around there. But yes, definitely, you will if you spend enough time on the coast, any of these places, and you're kind of asking about Sasquatch, you will get an albino one for sure.
Could you share one of those three stories?
Yeah. So in Bella Bella, I had spoken with a gentleman who was, I don't know, he was a middle-aged guy, maybe in his 50s, and he, so basically, just let me kind of preface this by saying that, like, the members of these communities tend to have special relationships with certain parts of their territory. Like their family may come from a certain bay or a certain creek mouth, or so the guy that I had spoken to in this instance, his sort of ancestral village was on an island to the west of Bella Bella, and further out on the outside coast, close to the open ocean, because this is an area of, it's like a jigsaw puzzle here of kind of inlets and islands and mainland. And so he and his dad, and I think a third person, had gone there to do some harvesting of clams. And again, it was I think it was a daytime harvest. And basically, he said that while they were digging, this creature appeared out of the trees and ran towards them, because they said that the animal was trying to protect its clams, and the boat wasn't far away, but they had to sprint pretty quickly to get to the boat, and then they just pushed themselves off, and then the thing, as soon as they got to the boat, the thing bolted back into into the tree cover. So it had achieved its objective. It had chased them off the clam beds, basically, and they'd gone there repeatedly. They're from that area, and they, and I think afterwards they had to do a ceremony to kind of cleanse themselves of the negative emanations that the creature had, I guess, exposed them to. They do these smoking ceremonies on the coast whenever someone encounters a Sasquatch under like negative circumstances.
For women in the area, are they told not to go out at night?
No, there isn't any kind of particular injunction that's gender related or anything like that. I mean, I think that if you ask them about their traditional tales about the Sasquatches, those stories tend to involve Sasquatches kidnapping children, and those stories served a purpose. They were to sort of prevent the children from misbehaving or from wandering far from camp or from the village site or whatever. But I mean, occasionally you hear the odd story here. They're often, apocryphal and never really kind of believed, but of like a story like a long time ago about perhaps a woman being kidnapped or taken away. But no, there is no kind of I never got the impression that there was any kind of a sense that there was some kind of a danger because of Sasquatches being attracted to male Sasquatches being attracted to women or anything like that. That I didn't get that sense. No.
I know in the Chehalis First Nation, especially at the turn of the 20th century, there were a couple of cases where women were taken as Sasquatch wives. And even, and I don't say this often, but even up on the Highway of Tears, there are many First Nations people who believe that up to as high as 20% of the women who have gone missing there have been taken as Sasquatch wives.
Oh, interesting. I've never heard that. Nor have I thought of that as a kind of a, as a story kind of thing that would explain that. But, yeah, I mean, and again, this demonstrates, I mean, people tend to generally say that all Native or all First Nation or all Indigenous people have kind of the same beliefs, and you'd be surprised by how different their perspectives and their takes change from territory to territory that you visit, and then there are overlapping and lots of commonalities, of course, but yes, what one community tends to believe doesn't necessarily hold true in another.
Yeah, the lady who I talked to, her cousin's wife was actually one that went missing. And one of the interesting statistics that she said in a lot of these missing women is, she says First Nations women are usually told not to go out in the dusk or into the forest alone at night or even during the day, especially if they are within a year of giving birth, pregnant, or within, I think it was a week of their menstrual cycle. Because that smell, the smell and the odor that is given off by the female body is almost an attractant to the Sasquatch. Right.
Well, yes, and I mean, like I said, I mean, some communities, I mean, like Bella Coola, for instance, is a lot more cautious and fearful and cognizant of the creatures than, say, Bella Bello is. I mean, these are generalizations based on my own experiences, but yes, and so, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me that another community might actually take precautions as a result of their beliefs or perspectives on the issue.
We only got about 4 minutes here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. John Zada is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. John packs a very tight beard, too, everyone, so you got to support that. Go buy his book. in the Valley of the Noble Beyond in search of the Sasquatch. John, in regards to, you said earlier this half hour that you were on the trail of something. You saw those footprints. Did you feel that you were close to one of these creatures?
I mean, it's hard to, at the time I did. And not to say that now I look back and I don't feel the same way, but I think, when you travel to another place and you immerse yourself in that environment, and especially if it's a very different environment and you're looking for something, and you really do kind of get into it. And I don't forget too, I was there for the purpose of writing a book, and I was on a quest in a way. And so, yes, definitely at the time, I really, really, really I was looking for a break. And in some ways, whatever, like the universe kind of provided it. There was this kind of, at the very least, a break in the story plot. And so early on in the story anyway. And, yeah, and the tracks did look a bit funny. And then when I did tell the locals about it and went and spoke to the people who actually posted it on Facebook and everything, and the consensus was at the time that like people generally don't go to that lake, and they just certainly don't wade in the water, and so it's considered haunted. And even the people who I bumped into there were from out of town, and so there definitely was a kind of, I did really kind of want it to be the case. And, for the purpose of the story, I remained open-minded and pursued it. And then, but then here's what happened. I took some photographs and then sent them to a Sasquatch researcher by the name of John Bindernagel, who, passed away last year, but who was
great guy,
a very, very well-known figure, in the community, Sasquatch community. And so he, he's a very, 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 very orthodox, cautious, straight kind of guy in terms of even his own research. And so he kind of was like, he's like, all the tracks don't really kind of look like juvenile tracks that I've seen. And he sort of like shut it down. And that was sort of what closed the, that kind of like, plot line a little bit in the story and everything. But yeah, when you're there, it's like any little thing, that could possibly be Sasquatch related and you're looking for it. It can be, right? Like in one's own mind anyway, right? So, and that's part of what makes the phenomenon controversial and also interesting, because the human mind is a very complex machinery that has its own mind. And, so, yeah, that's kind of what happened with the tracks.
With about a minute to go here before we go to break at the top of the hour, do you think a place like the Great Bear Rainforest is where a creature like Sasquatch will be found, or just continue to be lost in the wilderness?
Yeah, my sort of, the scenario in my mind in terms of like where they would be uncovered would be maybe like a truck hitting one or a hunter shooting one, somewhere where there's a lot, I think places with more human activity and where the human world and let's call it the Bigfoot world kind of collide a bit more. I think a place like the Great Bear, again, ironically, in spite of its remoteness and pristineness, helps it to remain hidden, I think. And because it's so easy for them to step back in.
John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we're about to go to break here in about 5 seconds. So when the music starts, that means it's time for old Davey to step on out. Fast 2 hours already. We have John Zada on for another 30 minutes. Check out his book, In the Valleys of Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch. It's a great book. Coming up in hour 3, then at the bottom of the hour, the SOR Newswire, the Thought of the Dave. One more hour to go here on Spaced Out Radio, so don't change the dial. We'll be right back.
we're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, BUMBLEFOOT.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Themer. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and Bigfoot in the forest. Truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Richard Dolan, as well as others all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning on in. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, WQEE 99.1 FM in Georgia, on KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, and KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Revolution Radio and Kingdom of Nye Radio. Don't forget you could check out our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Dextrogiratory. Dextrogiratory is your password. Use it wisely. Nobody really knows what it means, but the clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.co for right now. We're going to transfer it over to our .com here probably on the weekend. And the new site is looking good. There, you can join the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Get into our private chat room. That's one of the features we have. Do a little shopping at the SOR Vault. Get yourself some Spaced Out Radio swag. And, of course, we have We Read the Night. That's where we got a few authors on there. We're going to be getting more. You could go right to their books, pick them on up. They're very, very cool. John Edwards and his wife Stacy are on there. The Crypto Guru, Varla Ventura, just to name a few. It's going to be good. Real, real good. We're going to limit the authors on that as well. For the final time tonight, we introduce John Zada. His first book that he's written, after traveling the world covering news stories all around this planet, he chooses Sasquatch. His book, In the Valley of Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch, happens in the Great Bear Rainforest here in British Columbia. That's about 5 hours west of where we are at SOR headquarters. John, welcome back.
Thanks very much.
In the last half hour, John, you said something that I caught on because, I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I'm not going to lie. And you mentioned about the paranormal stories that you were hearing out of the Great Bear Rainforest. We like some good paranormal stories around here. What were you hearing?
Right. Well, there was a community that I visited maybe halfway into the journey that is recounted in the book. The town was called, it's too much to call it a town. It's so small. It's about 40-some people. It's a village known by the name of Wekino, and the First Nation is the Wekino First Nation. And the community is located, is between, it's sitting on a piece of land that to its west is the ocean, and to the east is a gigantic lake called Owekino Lake. And so while I was there doing my sleuthing and investigating and traveling and talking to people and all that, I kept hearing these stories about this side valley, partway down the lake. It's a huge lake. It goes maybe something like 80 or 90, well, not a huge lake, but like for the area, it's a big lake, 80 or 90 kilometers, I think, like it extends. And so this valley that apparently, a bunch of logging companies had gone in there in the past, and each logging company would flee in terror, one after the other, after a whole bunch of things would go wrong with their logging operations. And anyway, so this was sort of in the mid-20th century, but there were enough, elders and people who've been around long enough to kind of know the general gist of these tales. And so a part of the chapter in Wekino involves my attempt to figure out what is happening in this place that the locals called the Hoodoo Valley. And, at first I thought this was Sasquatch related, that these loggers were going into this valley and were being spooked by, Bigfoot type creatures or whatever, or stories of them or whatever. But as I kind of investigated further and kind of looked into it a bit deeper and even sort of traveled in the general vicinity out there, it turned out that these were more ghost stories and hauntings and this kind of thing. And I don't want to say too much because it would sort of give away another chapter of the book. But yes, the area is not just an area known for its Sasquatch activity, but also, ghost stories where there are a lot of old communities and as a result, a lot of those sorts of tales.
Do you think the two were related?
You mean in general?
In general, Sasquatch and the hauntings?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, in the specific cases, I mean, I'll give you another example. Another story that I heard. I mean, I don't know about the Hoodoo Valley, but perhaps. But like I stayed at a lodge in another town, and another old lodge. It used to be a hospital, and it had been converted into kind of like a small hotel. And the owners the year before said that before they had winterized the lodge and left for the winter, they had closed and locked all the doors in the lodge. And so when they returned that following year, the year that I went to do my trip, they went into the lodge and found all the doors basically open. So, I mean, in that particular case, no, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, there is the whole question of whether Sasquatch might also be some kind of a phantom or a spirit or whatever. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. Possibly. I mean, there may be some connection, but I'm not so sure. I felt that a lot of the more kind of ghost type kind of stuff that I picked up there was separate though. So, but
Yeah, the legends always seem to go far and wide. I mean, in that area, if you have little people, if you have the Sasquatch, if you have paranormal activity going on, it's funny because the First Nations up here, the Cannon Lake Indian Band, I was talking to one of the elders there one day, and I asked him, I said, so how many reports of Sasquatch are you guys seeing in your area? He goes, not many. He goes, but if the Star people would just leave our people alone, we'd be really happy. And it's like, okay, so a lot of people are getting abducted? He goes, yeah. He goes, you'll be walking to your home from your friend's house, and the next thing you know, you find somebody lying in the middle of the road, and they just got back. And I'd be like, wow. And he says it's happening all the time there. So, I mean, do you believe that because the First Nations, obviously, this is their traditional lands all over this province of British Columbia, do you believe that because they have that tradition, that history of the land, that they are more capable of having interaction with the Sasquatch?
Well, I mean, I would say that, well, if you ask them, I mean, I think they will definitely tell you that because they're indigenous to the land. I mean, that's what the term actually implies and means, and because they are from there and they have a relationship with the place and their destiny is bound to it, and they share the same living space with the animals. That yes, of course, the Sasquatch. The animals are would look at them or consider them in a different light, kind of thing, and they do their destiny in their own eyes is what I'm trying to say is definitely more tied to the animals, because the animals are part of their lives and vice versa, right? They share a homeland, right? And so but in sort of more practical I guess more sort of psychological, scientific, practical kind of terms. Like, I mean, they're familiar with the place, right? And they know what to look for. They know what they're seeing. They're, when people, city people go go camping or go hiking, and they're not very well versed in forest environments. I mean, in a way, it's kind of just a big blur. It's a bunch of trees. They can't distinguish the one type of tree from the other. They don't know the names, let alone even kind of can tell the difference between conifers even. And so, but that's not the case when you're dealing with, some of these people in these communities. They're hunters, they're trackers, and they've learned to distinguish, differences and changes in the environment. So I think on a very purely psychological, perceptual level, yes, they may have a greater chance of, let's say, seeing things that are difficult to see for other people. So for sure, in that sense, yes.
Do you think there will come a time when, whether it's up here in British Columbia, Washington State, Alberta near the left part of the province, let's say the whole western part of North America, do you think there will come a day where we start enacting, or we see more communities or even provinces or states enacting laws to protect this creature?
I mean, I think without any kind of further convincing evidence, probably no. But maybe indigenous people might begin to, in the way that they've been trying to protect grizzlies from hunting, let's say. But you'd have to really get a lot of people out looking to hunt them and kill them, and you just don't really get that. I mean, even when you talk to hunters who have claimed to see the creatures, they're not even able to pull the trigger, kind of thing. So, I mean, I don't really know if they need protecting in that sense. But then let's say in another scenario where, somebody brings in something that's more physical in terms of the evidence, like a body part, and then there's some media coverage, and scientists are kind of divided as to whether the arm that the person brought in is like, what is it? And then there's no firm conclusion. But I mean, maybe something like that where like it's sort of blown open, but not entirely, and there's still some resistance, and then maybe, but yeah, I don't know. I generally don't think that. I think if these creatures exist, they're like so good at hiding and so good at avoiding us that even if you got people going in with guns looking for them, they're not going to get them. So,
you know what? It's amazing how many researchers we have had on this show who have talked to hunters who have come across Sasquatch while they are hunting. Mm-hmm. And this is where it gets a little bit weird, and we turn up the woo factor a little bit. Okay. But so many of these hunters who have drawn their guns to a Sasquatch and then kind of get this almost like a telepathic message basically saying this would not be a good idea to do this, and they lower their firearms. Have you heard those stories?
Well, I mean, I haven't heard it. I mean, I've heard those stories applied to people who've seen them, but not gun-wielding people or hunters. So, yeah, you get that. There is that kind of the whole mind speak and the whole telepathic thing. But no, I mean, I've talked to maybe a handful in all of my time kind of doing the research for the book, and it was just, in those particular cases, it was more just fear of, well, what the hell am I going to kill if I kill this thing? It's like, looks like a person, right? So they're just kind of like, and I don't know, who knows? I mean, maybe for those who, did report that kind of telepathy, let's say, I mean, maybe that was something that they've kind of, a way of explaining it after the fact. Maybe the sentiment was so powerful at the time of, okay, I can't do this. This is just not a good idea. And then after they've had time to process it and the shock wears off a little bit, or the shock kicks in afterwards, perhaps that the experience may have been so powerful and so visceral for normal reasons that they may have had to attribute something kind of otherworldly to it. I mean, who knows? So that's just another way of looking at it, perhaps.
We've got about 6.5 minutes left with you in a show that has absolutely flown on by tonight, John. And I want to ask you, now that you have written this book on Sasquatch, in the valleys of Noble Beyond, in search of the Sasquatch, is this a career now in cryptozoology or the strange and weird that you are going to pursue personally, because there are so many different legends and lore and stories, not just in Canada, but around the world, that are sitting there waiting for somebody like you to come around and write it in obscure places? Is that something you see yourself doing now?
Well, I have been asked that question on a couple of occasions. And, I mean, I don't really have a straightforward answer. I took on this book project initially to, kind of get this whole stuff out of my system in a way. I kind of, I carried it into adulthood. It's always been with me. Up until the time I started writing the book, I was talking to people and meeting people who've had stories. And so I kind of almost wanted to just sort of like get it done with and, okay, decide once and for all and let's put it aside. But I think, and to some extent, I feel like I have achieved that in a way, right? In one sense, like I've had, kick at the can at it, but as anyone will tell you who, works on this or is interested in this or investigates this, that, yeah, kind of once it gets its hooks into you, it tends to stay with you. So, I mean, I guess my answer would be, I don't see myself, let's say, as a writer and as a journalist kind of making this my niche. No, I think I've got a lot of other books in me. I've got a lot of other projects, and I am an explorer, and as an explorer, there are other places to go to, both literal and figurative. But like at the same time, I don't know. I could see myself kind of dipping into it a little bit here and there in the future, and sort of let's say I'm writing about something in the Pacific Northwest, I could sort of bring that into a book on the subject. So I don't know. And I mean, I think I will always ask people if they've got stories. I mean, I've already got a database of my own, basically, as a result of researching the book. So why not, continue to add to it just as a kind of hobby in a way, right? Just because the stories are always really great. So I don't know. I guess in a nutshell, I think it will always be with me, and I may tap it a little bit here and there in different capacities, but I'm not so sure about kind of going the full, cryptozoology route. It's interesting for sure, but it's not really my path, I don't think.
So now that you've dipped into the crypto pool, what do you think of it?
Well, I mean, I've had exposure.
It's interesting.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's not new. It's not new to me as in terms of a field or as a subject matter, because I've been reading about stuff like this on and off my whole life. But and I can't quite tell you. I can't quite answer the question of how is it as a field in terms of colleagues, because I haven't apart from doing interviews like this with cryptid-minded or paranormal-minded, podcasts, a couple that I've done, in addition to lots of mainstream media. I can't quite say that I have colleagues or that I've rubbed shoulders or have, spoken with anyone who's really kind of does the same thing, with the exception of maybe John Bindernagel, when I've hung out with him a lot in the years prior to his passing away, and even some local researchers in the Great Bear. But yeah, I still feel very much, on one hand, I feel on the inside, because I do know a lot from a life of research and reading and speaking to people. But at the same time, like I'm not really, I'm kind of like a maverick kind of, lone wolf kind of thing with this whole thing that's, so yeah, I don't know. I can't really tell you what that world is like. I mean, I've peered into it from the outside via the internet and via Facebook, and, I listen to podcasts occasionally on the subject and everything and all that. But, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I think I like where I am vis-a-vis that world. I like to be an outsider in general. I like to be kind of visiting other realms from other places. So it kind of suits me fine this way.
We got about 1 minute with you left, and I want to say a big thank you for you coming on Spaced Out Radio. I mean, being able to break down the Great Bear Rainforest and the fact that you got to look for Sasquatch as well, that is pretty cool. Do me a favor, tell everybody where they can find your books and your website.
Oh, great. Website is johnzada.com. So it's Zada, it's one word. And that has all my travel writing and links to photography and blogs and stuff. And the book is basically everywhere. It's a mainstream, published hardback, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Chapters Indigo in Canada, your local bookstore. It's pretty much everywhere. So you don't really have to go far. And if you are kind of an indie bookstore supporter, then chances are you'll find it there. And if not, they can order it and get it in a few days. So yeah.
Go get it.
It's an adventure story first and foremost. So I think if people are into that kind of yarn, then definitely go for it.
Absolutely, John. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. I greatly appreciate getting to meet you, getting to know you, and talk to you about this great subject. We're going to have to do it again, my friend. Coming up on Spaced Out Radio as we take this thing home, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thiemer. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, BUMBLEFOOT.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other. Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more. Keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page. Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Reminder, if you've missed most of this show or others, our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate it. Our website, spacedoutradio.co right now. That's .co. We're going to switch it over to the .com this weekend. There, you can do a little shopping at our SOR Vault store. T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, you name it, we got it. You can also sign up for the SOR Newswire and read up on that as Captain Shirk. Literally, you know, she updates it daily. You can sign up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. It's $5 a month. We got a huge forum in there. We're going to start up the live chat here probably next week. And eventually, very soon, we're going to add video footage during the show that you can only catch there. It's going to be great. And we got our authors page called We Read the Night. You want to check that out as well. But speaking of the news, let's get to it. Let's have some fun. What did Captain Shirk deliver for us tonight? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire, the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, those stories that will make you scratch your head sometimes. All our news can be found on our website or Facebook page at... What the hell do we call our Facebook page here? The SOR Newswire. There we go. All right. SpaceX's new Crew Dragon astronaut capsule will be ready for its first manned flight into orbit in the first quarter of next year, provided everything goes according to plan in upcoming tests, according to NASA Chief Jim Bridenstine. Anyhow, the pronouncement of a revised timeframe signaled NASA believes SpaceX is getting the Crew Dragon project back on track following an explosion during a ground test in April and technical challenges with its re-entry parachute system. Bridenstine said successful development of the capsule was key to achieving NASA's top priority, the resumed launching of American astronauts on American rockets from American soil. Boy, he waves a flag pretty proud. For the first time since the Space Shuttle program ended in 2011, the NASA administrator spoke to reporters at the end of the visit to the SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, just outside Los Angeles, where Chief Executive Elon Musk led him on a tour of the sprawling manufacturing plant. Their joint appearance by a giant glass-enclosed clean room where engineers were working on a Crew Dragon marked a show of unity following a rare public spat over delays in the project. NASA and SpaceX had previously aimed to launch the Crew Dragon on an initial test flight carrying 2 astronauts to the International Space Station in 2019. However, the revised timeline hinges on a series of systems tests that SpaceX hopes to conduct by year's end. These include a high-altitude test of an in-flight abort system designed to propel crew capsules to safety in the event of a rocket failure on the way to orbit. Oh, it's so dangerous up there. I still would go and try it out. I totally would. How do you feel about this in the United States? Washington, D.C. City Council members rushed to approve legislation renaming Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day this week before its October 14th commemoration, citing similar moves by several states and a slew of cities in recent years. The D.C. Council invoked a special provision for emergency legislation that allowed the bill's sponsors to force a vote without the standard process involving committees, multiple votes, and congressional approval. Another bill in the works would make the change permanent. The emergency bill will be in effect for no longer than 90 days after Mayor Muriel Bowser signs it. Columbus Day was officially designated as a federal holiday in 1937, despite the fact that Columbus did not discover North America, despite the fact that millions of people are already living in North America upon his arrival in the Americas, and despite the fact that Columbus never set foot on the shores of the current United States. At-large council member David Grosso said in a statement, Columbus enslaved, colonized, mutilated, and massacred thousands of indigenous people in the Americas. The temporary provision passed easily with 12 of 13 members voting for it and just one member, Jack Evans, voting present. Grosso's statement blamed Council Chairman Phil Mendelson for stalling legislation for at least 5 years without any public input or hearing. Though Mendelson voted for the emergency bill on Tuesday, Curbed DC reported that Evans voted present because his Italian-American constituents reached out to oppose the move. Now, this is kind of cool. A tiger that was maimed by a poacher's trap is going to be given a prosthetic paw in a world Now I got to figure out how long we've been frozen. I have no idea. I have no idea that we were frozen there. I apologize. Let me check the message. How long have we been frozen? Must have just happened. A few minutes. See, that's the problem with the news, is I'm reading the news, and this silly program froze. I apologize. We had some good news on there. Good news. Let's just play this for the heck of it. I'm going to have to update that program. I apologize to all of you. Don't know what the heck happened there. This damn mix board. We'll talk to the tech guy, Chuckles. Not the one in the Spreaker chat room, different Chuck. I apologize. We had some good news there. That is frustrating. Have that happen during a great show like that. I don't know what happened there. You know what's weird is my computer is updated. I want to hear that again. Oh, I love this. It's about how I feel after apparently missing about 9 minutes of show. See if I got any text messages during that. No! Nobody messaged me on that one. Amazing. I apologize about that. Apologize to John Zada, too, because literally this is going to go into the archives with like 9 minutes of dead air. That's going to suck. Means I can't even get to the thought of the day. I'll save it for tomorrow. Save the thought of the day for tomorrow, because like we are almost out of time here. I apologize to all of you about that. I'm sure Chuck's going to be like kicking my butt over this. What happened? You were like 9 minutes dead air. I'm going to be like, sorry, Chuck. Blame Mix. I don't know what it is, man. Don't know what it is. Hey, tomorrow night on the show, Rob Goodrow is going to join us. We're going to talk Kindred Spirits. Yeah, that's going to be a good show. It's his brand new book as well. So we're going to check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then we got the long weekend up here in Canada. It's our Thanksgiving long weekend. So if you're Canadian, have a great long weekend. We got one more show with you before we hit the long weekend. I'm excited because like I'm going to have like a full 2 days off. Oh, it's going to be heaven. Going to be absolute heaven. I cannot wait. Thanks, Captain Shirk, for some great news tonight. I realized nobody really heard it, but you did a great job with the news. Thank you so much for getting it on out there. Make sure you check out our new look website at spacedoutradio.co. Yeah, .co. Got some good features there. We Read the Night, the SOR Space Travelers Club, the SOR store called The Vault. Mean, tough name, the SOR Vault. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Everybody in the chat rooms on Spreaker, the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook, Revolution Radio, and of course, hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Please note this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for doing your part to listen to us tonight, even when we have the technical errors. Because together, my friends, let's turn it up a notch, shall we? We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.